Robert Fuller was born in Troy, New York on 29 July 1933 at 1:50 p.m. and was raised in Key West, Florida. He was an only child and his birth name was Leonard Leroy Lee, but he was nicknamed Buddy Lee by his friends. Robert started his education at St. Mary's in New York, and when his mother Betty divorced, she took Robert and they moved to Florida where she was nightclub dancer. Robert was put into Miami Military Academy, where he did 5th to 6th grade. After that he spent 1 year in a standard school. At this time Betty met and married Robert Simpson, who was a naval officer, and they moved to Chicago for 1 year, then returned to Key West where he attended. Robert attended Key West High for 9th grade. 15 years of age. Robert quit school at 9th grade as he did not enjoy school and openly admits he did not do well there. He worked a variety of jobs before moving to Hollywood. When his mother Betty married Robert Simpson, Robert took the name Robert Simpson Jr. This changed when Robert started acting and he decided he needed a different handle. At the time he had no idea what his name should be, but he had a relative with a first name of Fuller and he figured it went well with his name, so the handle of Robert Fuller was created. Robert was very close to his stepdad and considered him as a dad rather than a stepdad, so for the remainder of this biography I will refer to him as Robert's dad or father. Eventually, Betty convinced Robert Simpson to quit the Navy. She taught him to dance, and this led to them opening a dance school in Key West. In the daytime his mother taught ballet to the local children, and in the evening they both taught ballroom dancing to the hundreds of Navy personnel who were stationed in Key West at that time. In 1950, when Robert was just 16, his parents decided to move to Hollywood. Robert's dad became a very accomplished dancer, and had a plan to get into the motion picture business as a dancer, which he did successfully. His dad subsequently changed his name to Robert Cole and danced in almost every musical made between 1950 up to his retirement in 1987. This included working in many top-grade musicals such as Oklahoma, Jailhouse Rock, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, in which young Robert Fuller also appeared as a dancer in the chorus line. After the move to Hollywood, Robert had several jobs. The most significant of these was at Grauman's Chinese Theater, where he started as a doorman and worked his way up to assistant manager. He met a number of people around his own age of 18 years, who were members of the Screen Extras Guild, and they convinced him to join as they were earning significantly more than Robert. This was the start of Robert's journey into acting, and it was then he changed from Robert Simpson Jr. to Robert Fuller. After joining SEG, Robert started doing extra work and in 1952 got his first job in the movie Above and Beyond with Robert Taylor. This was followed by extra work in a great many films including Raintree County with Liz Taylor, The Harder They Fall with Humphrey Bogart, and The Man in the Gray Flannel Suit with Gregory Peck. His dad convinced him to look for jobs as a dancer, which he did successfully, getting roles in I Love Melvin with Debbie Reynolds, Gentlemen Prefer Blondes with Marilyn Monroe, and Latin Lovers with Lana Turner. In 1953, while the Korean War was on, Robert at the age of 19 was drafted into the United States Army, where he served 2 years, 15 months of which was in Korea. His unit was 19th Infantry Regiment and he was chosen 3 times as the Outstanding Soldier on Guard Mount, a decision based upon appearance, knowledge of military subjects, and bearing. When he returned home in 1955, he decided to give up his career in show business as he did not see any future in it. However, his dad, along with his longtime pal Chuck Courtney, convinced him to attend Richard Boone's acting class. This was a pivotal move for Robert as the class impressed him so much he changed his mind, decided to stay in show business and take a shot at becoming an actor. After studying with Boone for a year, Boone was impressed enough with Robert's potential that he recommended him to Sanford Meisner, who accepted Robert into the New York Neighborhood Playhouse School of Theater. Meisner was a highly respected acting teacher who taught future stars like Gregory Peck, Jon Voight, Robert Duvall, Edmund O'Brien, and Grace Kelly. Robert was in good company. In 1956 came his first speaking part in a movie where he played a Union soldier and said to Gary Cooper, "Bet you $1 you can't do that again." The film was Friendly Persuasion, and not only was it Robert's first talking part in a movie, it was also the first time he worked with his Laramie co-star John Smith. Originally, director William Wyler had wanted another actor to play the part Robert was given, however he was unimpressed with the fact the other actor had false sideburns. Robert's sideburns were real, and when Wyler saw Robert he called him over and asked him if he could act. Robert said, "You bet." Wyler then said, "Say this line, 'I bet I can knock down more than you can.'" Robert repeated the line and Wyler without hesitation said, "Give this kid the part." This was a turning point for Robert and the beginning of a great career. Following Friendly Persuasion, Robert had a number of small speaking parts, and then in 1956 came his big break in Teenage Thunder. To get the part, he and his good friend Chuck Courtney staged a fight to convince the director, Paul Helmick, that he was the man for the part. Originally Helmick had wanted Ed Burns, but after seeing Chuck and Robert perform, Helmick gave the role of bad guy Maury Weston to Robert. The very same year Robert did another film for the same company that produced Teenage Thunder and again worked with the same production team. This film was the cult science fiction movie, The Brain from Planet Arus, with John Agar. After over 50 years this film is still available on DVD. This was followed by a part in a science fiction series where he played a bad guy and was killed in the third episode. The name of this series was Outpost in Space. He spent the next couple of years doing featured and guest star roles in a variety of TV programs, mainly westerns. In February 1959 Robert appeared again with John Smith. This time in a western series called Cimarron City, and now Robert's career had progressed to the point where he was getting guest star billing. It was this appearance that led to his being offered the role of Jess Harper in Laramie. The story goes as follows. While filming Cimarron City, Robert was summoned to the Vice President of Talent, Patrick Kelly's office. He went there actually thinking he was going to be fired. However, Kelly told him that he liked the work